Pamela Ashcroft here. So I wasn't planning on making a video today, but I thought I'd just come on and talk some more about anxiety. One of my family members said recently that in a video where I spoke about my panic attacks, it's as if I'm still experiencing them when walking, and no, that's not the case. In fact, I've traveled to the US, to Los Angeles, to Paris, to Madrid, to Lima, and taken the Eurostar to Paris. So I am I don't know if I'd say healed, but I don't experience panic attacks in regards to walking. In fact, I don't experience panic attacks. What I discovered yesterday, in fact, I was thinking the other day that I haven't blushed for a long time, like out of anxiety. I used to do that when I was a teenager at school. Especially when I'd have to talk in front of a lot of people, I'd get nervous and anxious and blush, and then that affects your prefrontal cortex. So your breathing changes, and your cognitive attention declines. And anyway, the same thing happened yesterday. Which was a surprise, because I was for my sister's funeral, I had to talk in front of, I chose to talk in front of 300 people. And I was reading a passage from the Bible. I was in an American church in Paris, but most of the congregation weren't fluent English speakers, so I did have an advantage over that. But I got through the whole passage because I was observing. I applied what I've been teaching to observe. I was observing the whole thing, and then probably a few months ago in September, I went to a spiritual conference, and I got up. It was a 3-day conference, and it was the second day that I got up to ask a question. You had to stand up and speak in front of a mic, and I don't know how I managed to do that. Probably because I was speaking to Victor Odo, and he has a similar background in the sense that he has a survival background. He's experienced anxiety, so maybe because of those reasons. But anyway, I was fine. I got praised for it at the end by other people that were there. But so yesterday I was in a Zoom call with Victor Odo and other spiritual people, and there were about 300 to 600 people in the call. And at the beginning, he said, I'm gonna take Pamela on, and I knew it was me because not many people these days are called Pamela, and sure enough, it was me. And so at the beginning, I came across as confident, and I asked my question, and then I started to get in my head. I started to think, shit, I'm talking in front of 300 to 600 people. How can I be doing this? I was questioning my identity. I don't do this. And my past identity. And Like memories came from the past when I couldn't do something like this when I was at school. And then because it was a Zoom call, I could see my face. I could see that I was beginning to blush. And the thing is, there have been other callers before that had anxiety, and at the beginning of the call that they said things like, I think I'm going to cry, I have a lot of anxiety, and it makes sense to say it at the beginning of the call. But then I come in, I seem confident, and then in the middle of the call it just didn't seem appropriate to say, oh, actually I'm having anxiety now. So I guess I suppressed it. And then after the call, it took me about 2 hours. I was in trauma response, and I don't know why. I've had, it's something in my past. It's a past trauma, and I don't know what the first trauma was. I suspect it was in childhood, before I can remember. When I came to this country in 1984, I was 2 years old. I just turned 2 years old, and I didn't know what was going on. I was taken away from my family. My cousins who were my age, one cousin is 8 months older than me. I was taken out of that environment, and suddenly people were speaking a different language. The weather was different. The people were different. The culture was different. I didn't know what was going on. So I developed selective mutism, which at the time, the term wasn't coined. It was seen as extreme shyness, but it's selective mutism, and the source of that is anxiety. So I've had anxiety for as long as I can remember. An aunt that recently passed away this year said that when I was a baby in Lima, and I'd go to her and her parents' house, I'd be crying the whole time because I wasn't in my house. I was in an unfamiliar place. So she'd carry me, and she'd face me towards the ceiling because all ceilings look the same. And then I'd relax, I'd calm down because I didn't feel like I was in an environment that I didn't know. So yeah, what I want to say is that it's not about healing anxiety, because we're always healing. Healing doesn't stop. It's about managing anxiety, but I've managed my anxiety with regards to walking, but there's other areas in my life that I need to heal. I'm not. It's not about reaching perfection or reaching a state that you don't need healing anymore. It's a journey. So that's all for now. Until next time, bye-bye.